Good day, children. We begin today's lesson with a man vomiting in a horse-drawn carriage on a summer's night in Vienna in 1809. Vienna, city of dreams, and the location of, a few moments prior to the gentleman's technicolor yawn, some dead-body hijinks, as Salmonella would put it. The man in the carriage is one Joseph Karl Rosenbaum. His regurgitation in the interior of the 19th century equivalent of an Uber is not as a result of having downed one too many Jaeger bombs. Oh no. This man is spewing schnitzel from his pie hole because he has the decaying severed head of his friend next to him. And it's a jolly good thing he's emptied his stomach, because they haven't even cracked the thing open yet. You see, Mr. Rosenbaum is on his way to the Vienna General Hospital with his accomplices to examine their dead friend's brain. Why? Well, for two reasons. One, their late friend happened to be Franz Joseph Haydn, the so-called father of the symphony. A musical genius, in other words. And two, the men were students of the work of Franz Joseph Gall, the man who, for all intents and purposes, invented phrenology, the now debunked study of the shape and size of the cranium as an indicator of mental ability and character. These men, traversing the streets of Vienna under the cover of night, were on a mission of scientific inquiry, to see if they could tell, by looking at their dead friend's brain, what made him so bloody good at writing awe-inspiring music, the likes of which even Mozart had praised. Their hope was that, by examining the insides of the 4-day-old corpse head, they might chance upon a clue as to what gave Haydn his remarkable talent. At the hospital now, the cranium is about to be cut open. Of the experience, Rosenbaum would record in his diary, "It was already quite green, but still easily recognizable. It took an hour. The brain, which was big, smelled terrible, but I managed to hold on." Having thoroughly examined the decomposing organ of the mind, it was concluded that the bump of music in Haydn's skull was indeed fully developed. What a surprise! All there was left to do was to macerate and bleach the skull, and put it in a nice little display box to occasionally show off to dinner guests.
He's got the head.
I've got the head.
Shh.
Your Highness, did we ever relocate Herr Haydn's body to Eisenstadt at the end of the Napoleonic Wars? You know, I don't think we did. Exhume the corpse! At the discovery that Haydn's head was missing, the prince was furious. It did not take authorities long, however, to work out who had robbed the grave. Curiously, it seems that under Austrian law, at least at the time, this was not a crime. Presumably emboldened by this fact, Rosenbaum showed scant regard for the royal orders for the return of Haydn's skull, offering instead the skull of another, which was easily determined by the court physician to be that of a man far younger than Haydn. So the prince ordered a search of the Rosenbaum residence. Determined not to lose possession of the precious souvenir, Rosenbaum hid the skull under his wife, whom he had instructed to lie down and pretend to be suffering through the monthly pains of womanhood. The ruse worked, and the guards left empty-handed. Haydn's body was reburied at the Esterhazy family seat at Eisenstadt with the wrong head. 9 years later, Rosenbaum died, and the skull went to his accomplice Johann Nepomuk Peter. After Peter died, his wife lent the skull to phrenologist Dr. Karl Haller. Karl Haller then passed the skull on to Karl Freiherr von Rokitansky, founder of the Viennese School of Medicine. All the while, Peter had bequeathed the skull to die Gesellschaft der Musikfreunde. The Gesellschaft then took legal action against the university, which caught the attention of the Esterhazy family once again, who also took legal action in an attempt to reunite the skull with the bones of the body. The Gesellschaft won the legal battle in 1895. In the 1930s, the Esterhazys, never forgetting their family's ties to their great servant in music, attempted to buy the skull from the university. The asking price was, in the end, too high. In the meantime, Prince Paul Esterhazy, descendant of Nikolaus II, had a beautiful marble tomb built for the late composer in the Bergkirche at Eisenstadt. Then the Second World War broke out, and further delayed any possibility of a reunion of the cranium with the rest of the remains. After the war, the Gesellschaft had a change of heart and gave the skull to the Esterhazy estate. So it was, on the 4th of June 1954, to tremendous jubilation and profound solemnity, that the head of Franz Joseph Haydn was reunited with the bones of his body, the soul of which having departed 145 years prior. In this remarkable photograph, we see Gustinus Ambrosi, sculptor and poet, native of Eisenstadt, solemnly elevate the skull before the reunification, thus concluding the saga of Haydn's missing head. Curiously, they did not remove the other head, so there are two skulls in Haydn's coffin. Bizarre. Well, that concludes today's lesson, dear children. I hope it has been of interest. I'm Sigmund Oppenbaum. Thanks for watching.